Good news, we're making a new game, and right now I'm currently calling it Jump Combo. Bad news, this video is coming out a little bit later than usual and probably like 2-3 hours. The reason for this is that I'm going to combine the tip series that I was doing mixed with actual development like I tried with Minotaur, and I'm going to do this with Jump Combo, and we're going to learn from Jump Combo as I'm building it over time. The goal is to use development as context for our tip so we can learn from a real life example. I think this will help out and make the tip series really take off. Our topic today is brainstorming. The real world example is going to be near the end of the video where I'll voice over what I'm doing for brainstorming for Jump Combo. But of course, we're going to start with the tip section first. So let's talk about brainstorming. My name's RayBenefield. Game development is one of my special interests, and today we're going to be talking about how we can really flesh out a game idea before you start developing. The point of brainstorming is to really get to the essence of your game. You may have a good initial idea, but in order to really find its identity, you have to brainstorm and explore it as deeply as possible before you start creating. You can make a proof of concept, that's fine, but really brainstorm. The trick to brainstorming that most people don't do is don't delete anything. Write and write and write. Just throw ideas, brain dump them as much as you can. Treat this like word association. The moment you think of something, write it down if it's relevant to your game idea. Then later you can go organize and filter, but your goal is to add and add and add. You can close doors later. Sure, you can use pen and paper and notebooks, but I recommend something a little more modular, something like index cards or post-it notes, something that you can write and then reorganize later. My preference here is using a software called Miro. It's a web app that you can also download desktop versions for. I'm not sponsored by them. I do have a referral link, and if you want it, you can check in the description down below, and you can click on it, sign up for a Miro account. I'll show you some of the really cool things that it can do. So you can just write down ideas, but it's better if you have a proper method to do it. So I always start with brain dumping a bunch of post-it notes using Miro's bulk edit tool. Once I do that, then later I start categorizing it. Now, I've always wanted to do this, but today I'm gonna actually use a mind map to categorize after the brain dump part. A mind map is like a brainstorming web. You may have been taught this in school. I typically don't like using mind maps, mainly because they have a hierarchy system and there's problems with categorization. For example, you may want an item both here and here, and you duplicate stuff all over the place, but I'm really curious as to how it goes. The mind map tool in Miro looks really cool, so I wanted to give it a shot today. Now I'm going to jump into the real world example portion, and I'm going to talk over what I'm planning on doing with Jump Combo and my goals and what I'm doing over the course of it. Jump Combo is actually a simple idea that I wanted to put together as an example to show the difference between reactive core and normal Lua programming in core games. We are going to use a simple mechanic, and that mechanic is going to be jumping, and we're going to make an entire game just out of jumping. What you're seeing right now is Miro's bulk note tool. So what I'm doing is dumping as many ideas as I can to put onto essentially this virtual whiteboard. And it's going to be useful later when we start organizing in our mind map. So how do we make a game just out of jumping? The goal here is that I want to make it an advanced movement mechanic similar to bunny hopping or third stage quick boost in Armored Core, or spring jumping or slide jumping in Halo. We want to make jumping an advanced technique enough that it is difficult to master, and you not only want to master it, but you also have a ton of fun just doing it, just running around and jumping. We do this by introducing a window of opportunity mechanic. If you jump at a specific time after landing, you gain a momentum and speed boost, and you can combo this over and over and over again to stack it. Using this, you can traverse the map and just have fun. If you've ever heard of Crackdown, it's kind of like that. Now that we've finished our brain dump, we have tons of ideas, we need to start categorizing and then start organizing this in a mind map. And the reason that we're doing this is so that way when we have a category, we can flesh it out even more. The mind map makes this easy. If you would like to see the mind map yourself, there's a link in the description below. I've made it available for everybody to look at. Eventually, I can make it available for comments, and then we can develop Jump Combo together as a community as we build the game and play with stuff. We've got our brain dump. Now we want to break it down into categories, and we want to expand on every idea that we possibly can. What you're seeing right now is Miro's provided template tool for mind maps. It makes it super simple where you can click the plus buttons and you can add on to certain categories, and then you can grab them and relink them to different categories. So we have a toy mechanic, and I'll talk about toy mechanics in the future in another tip video. So we have something fun to do, but now we need a goal. And I've decided that the goal for this is strictly going to be leaderboard based and the ability to show off how good you are. Since the goal of this is mainly to use as a tutorial series, I'm not too worried about the game lasting as long as it possibly can and being a long-term game. But even so, I want to explore milking it as much as possible. Leaderboards are a decent way to do this, and cosmetic unlocks are also a decent way to do this. But really, I wanted to do something a little bit different. Since I'm making a tutorial series out of this and I want people to learn from it, I want people to be able to choose what we're working on. So I'm going to use this game in order to give people voting power in what we build next. I'll provide a list of features that we need to develop, and players will use their voting power and their spot on the leaderboard to choose what needs to be built next. Pair this with YouTube advertising, and we have a player retention cycle and investment that gets players coming back for more, which is you. This means that if you want to control what we develop next, you're going to need to play this game. Keep in mind that your goal here is to make your idea as fleshed out as you possibly can. The earlier you do this, the better, because like we talked about in Trial of Fire, the later you make a change, the more costly it is. So everything is super cheap and free during the brainstorming phase. That's why it's the most important. Tomorrow, we're gonna take all this brainstorming and we are going to cut it down into a minimum viable product, or an MVP. So you'll really wanna be here for that. I gotta go edit now. There's a lot to edit actually. So I'll see you tomorrow.